town of Pašić, northern Slovakia, 1988, 1.5 kilometers from here. When they were building construction complex, they discovered 25 huge megalithic blocks below the surface. It formed two megalithic circles, 60 meters radius. Well, they moved them into the downtown, and today they are sitting here. This is the biggest one, 7 meters and 16.5 tons. When archaeologists and historians have no clue what was the purpose, they said cult, religious, ceremonial. Wrong. Astronomical, energy amplifier, knowledge, healing. The Devil's Stone in the northern Czech Republic. Village Vrkoslavice, Jablonec, Liberec is the biggest city around near the border with Germany. This granite block, 180 tons, sitting on 4 other blocks, total of 7 granite blocks. Impressive. 3-ton is keeping a huge one. We are on the top of the hill. This is not a geological phenomenon. Somebody placed it right here, and for sure not a Homo sapiens from the Paleolithic times. Northern Germany, the town of Ruric, Dolmen. In archaeology, dolmens are the combination of upright blocks and horizontal blocks, tabletops. In this particular case, a monumental structure built from granite, red granite and gray granite. Now, for archaeologists, these are the burial sites. Well, there is no sign that the original builders really built it for the burial purposes. Well, of course, from 5,500 years back until 3,500 years ago, people were buried here around it. When you see around, it's flat, but the original builders had some other purposes. The orientation is north-south. If the entrance is located south, it means it was devoted to the living communities. South is when the sun is on the top of the sky. It was for the living people. The next thing, granite, 15% quartz crystal. Quartz crystal, pressing each other, it produces the piezoelectrical effect. It transforms the energy. So the site had something to do with the energy, maybe energy portal. The island of Mön, M-O-N, in eastern Denmark, Baltic Sea. The long dolmen, or small burrow. There are hundreds of surviving megalithic structures on this small island today. The island is less than 200 square kilometers, a small island. Originally, probably thousands of megalithic structures built from the granite blocks, some of them reaching several tons or even 20 tons. Dolmen, a combination of the upright blocks and several much larger horizontal tabletops. Why would somebody build so many thousands of structures on this small island? I would make a parallel with the island of Sardinia, where originally we had 30,000 nuraghi, conical megalithic towers, also granite. Granite piezoelectrical effect transforms the energy. Granite with a lot of quartz crystal amplify the energy. The orientation, in this case, north-south. In some other cases with the chambers, passageways north-south, chambers east-west. Maybe electrical grid of the planet. Claims that they were all burial places, tombs for the chiefs of their communities does not make much sense. The period 5,500 years back, the last window for the megalithic structures on the planet. I'm in Sweden, between Jönköping and Stockholm, near the lake. Behind me is the most important stone plate with the runic writings in the world. Not only the most important, but the most runic symbols on any stones in the world. It is said that about 1200 rocks like this one are in the central part of Sweden and more than 3000 in Europe. During the Viking era, from the 8th to 12th century, while they were looting the area from the Western Europe, England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales, to Eastern Europe, Black Sea, today Ukraine, even Turkey, today's Russia, then Central Europe, many stones with the relatively simple runic symbols they were leaving behind them. But the highest concentration is here in Sweden, and because of its richness, it is considered the beginning of the Swedish literature. What they are saying, they are describing a warrior, the tragic death of his son. They are also talking on similar stones about daily events, about the wars, about their kings, about their culture, about their gods, about the Thor, and so on. That's why they are very important, culturally speaking. Its height is about 2.5 meters above the ground, 1 meter 20 below. It has a mass of a little bit over 4 tons. Now, the runic symbols go back not only to Phoenicians, but most probably to Central European countries like Hungary, 6, 7, 8,000 years. We even have runic symbols in our underground tunnels under the Bosnian pyramids. We think about 5,000 years. These are symbols. Every symbol has a meaning. That's why they are very complex and more advanced than what we use today as Latin letters. So, runes, think about our history before, much more complex and complicated, today much more simpler. Is it more advanced? Gamla Uppsala, the old Uppsala, probably the most sacred ground in Sweden. For the longest time, here we had the capital of Sweden. From almost 1700 years back until 1000 years back, this was the place where the kings would reside. behind me are three, they call them royal tombs. Why royal? Because of the size. Until 200 years ago, those three tumuli were considered natural by experts at that time. The king of Sweden decided to settle this matter for all times, so he asked his crew to start excavating. And indeed, in one of them, they discovered the human ashes, traces of human bones, and a lot of archaeological material that belonged to the time from 1800 years ago. Were they royals? We don't know. But they did have military equipment like swords and some other important stuff. So somebody important was buried there. Today those three royal tombs, they called Eastern, Middle and Western. But next to them there are more tumuli. At one point in Sweden it was at least between 2,000 and 3,000 of them. Originally, tumulus phenomenon was not a burial site. The tumulus which is a conical artificial hill, is one of the strongest geometrical shapes when it comes to the energy. Three of them, the pyramid, the tumulus, or conical, and finally the spherical, have almost the same function to amplify the energies. Two of them, the pyramid and conical, hit the energy from the top, and the third one, spherical, keeps it within. Now, was it the first purpose of the original builders? I don't know. Were the burial mounds for the kings, royalties? Well, some bones have been discovered, which doesn't mean that they were the original builders. Now, behind those three tumuli, there is a church. Of course, the churches were built always near important sites. Not only that, they were using the construction material for the churches to be built. In the wall that surrounds the church, there are tens of thousands of tons of rocks, different types, a lot of granite, red and gray granite. It tells me that at some point in the past they were part of huge structure, not the small one, not the dolmen, but the huge structure. Of course, there are stories about the temple at this site. Some presentations show temple as a huge wooden structure. But then, in some other references, they talk about the temple which was covered in gold. You don't cover with the gold wooden structure, but you cover a huge stone structure. For that, I don't have proof. But the amount of stones telling me that probably in the last megalithic window, which was 5,000 years ago, there are possibility of existence of such structures. Of course, that would mess up the stories about the Germanic communities going to the north and being at the origin of the Swedish societies here. But I think that we need to really deal in a serious way with our ancient history. And Sweden is not just a couple of thousand years old. It's not just the society that had their peaks during the Viking times from the 8th to 12th century, the society that they had the runic writings, mostly reference to that period. Runic symbols are much older than 1,000 years or than 1800 years, but the runic symbols go back for 5,000 to 7,000 years, which is much older. So we need to rethink the Swedish history, and this is the best place to start. Hunebed, Noord-Sleen, Drenthe, the province in Netherlands, Northern Europe. This is what mainstream science calls Pašić grave. For me, it's something else. It is a megalithic structure which consists of a number of huge multi-ton blocks. For example, the one that I'm standing on is 18 tons in mass. So, in archaeology, dolmens are structures consisting of upright blocks, vertical and horizontal tabletops. Today we have 7 of those huge boulders. One is missing. So we could say this is extended megalithic dolmen. However, this one is surrounded by the oval, which consisting of at this time 25 megaliths, originally between 38 and 40. This was huge undertaking when it comes to construction. But the major question is the origin of these blocks. It is not Netherlands. It is not even around the North Sea. They are coming from Sweden and Finland, and in between is the Baltic Sea. Geologists argue that during the end of the last ice age, the glaciers brought these boulders here. Maybe, I'm not quite sure. The next thing, in order to place the support blocks, they are multi-ton also, and they are at the same height, and then tabletops. Sometimes they would need to shape the smaller ones. And the way how did they balance it, huge blocks touching just in a few spots, those side blocks, is amazing. So, huge mystery. There are 54 hunebeds here in Netherlands, most of them in this province, Drenthe, and 2 of them in Groningen, 54 of them. Megalithic complexes that took a lot of knowledge, skills and efforts. What is their true purpose? 5,000 years back was the last megalithic window, not only in Europe, but on the planet. And that period lasted almost for 3,000 years, from 5,000 to 8,000 years before present. And somehow you have intelligent hands moving huge quantities. We are talking not hundreds, but thousands of tons of blocks from Mexico to Peru. from European countries to South Africa, including Asian countries. What was the reason to place huge, in many cases, granite blocks? Granite has up to 15% of quartz crystal, which amplifies the energy. When you place these blocks in certain geometrical shapes and patterns, circles, oval shapes, spirals, they focus the energy. So if they are above energy potent place, from ley lines, underground energy lines, to underground water streams, to underground iron ore and other minerals, they would amplify the energy. And this energy could be used anywhere from the health protection, spiritual senses advancement, or molecular structure improvement of water, food, agriculture. Important places for living persons. The orientation of these structures is usually east-west. In this particular case, it's not exactly east-west, but east-northeast, west-southwest, the summer solstice sun movement. Claims that the hunebeds were used as passage graves does not have a good foundation. True enough, during the time of the last few thousand years, people living in the agricultural communities when thinking where to bury their dead. This was one of the logical choices, but it came later after the original use. Another claim that this was built by the primitive Neolithic tribal communities also does not make much sense. Even in the case that these blocks were not carried from Sweden and Finland, and this is their true origin, even if they were brought by glaciers 12,000 years back, the question is of social organization to transport even on shorter distances, to shape, to lift, design, you need a technology. What Wikipedia and other non-scientific sites like Encyclopedia Britannica claim is that the Netherlands is the land where Germanic tribes and Germanic communities were coming 1800 years back and then moving to Denmark and Sweden and Norway. Wrong. This was not built by the Neolithic tribes. The history of this place here is at least 5,000 years old. So nothing to do with the pan-Germanic goals to explain that everything is coming from Germans after the era of the ancient Rome. Almost everything they teach us about the ancient history is wrong. Hunebeds or megalithic dolmens. The ancients were showing their skills in placing this tabletop, the big block, massive 15, 20 tons, on two smaller ones. But the intention was not to make it very stable, but again, to show their skills. So they were making what's called the balancing stones. For example, here it balances only on a very small area of a few centimeters, instead of placing it right here. The next one, the same thing, small area. And the next one, smaller area. very small area and tiny area here. So it's almost that they were showing off what they are capable to do.
The weather is so nice.
I'm in the Netherlands, Borger. Twente is a province, Northern Europe. Maybe the most beautiful and educational geological park on the planet. Millions and millions of tons of different rocks came here during the last ice ages from Sweden and some parts of Norway. So what they did here, they marked every stone, from where it came from, what exactly it represents. For example, gabbro, type of the stone. Here, sandstone, coming from different parts of Sweden. Granite, also Sweden and southern Finland. Magmatic stone, magma. Granite from southern Sweden. Feldspat, gabbro, again. On the other side, we have granite from southern parts of Sweden. Granite again, sandstone, granite. This is a paradise for geologists who really want to learn about different types of rocks. This is the largest hunebed megalithic structure in Netherlands. It is almost 23 meters in length. Today it has 10 huge boulders at tabletops. The biggest one and the most massive is 23 tons in mass. Mostly it's a granite material. The place of origin of granite is not Netherlands, but Sweden, hundreds of kilometers to the north. Granite has a very high percentage of quartz crystal. It's energetically potent. This one, unlike others, has additional element. It has an entrance which is located north-south, and hunebed itself east-west, or to be more precise, northeast, southwest, following the sun during the summer solstice. So, places like this one here, for me, they would have multi-layer function and purpose. So, following the sun during the summer solstice gives us astronomical properties, calendar properties, lunar phases and lunar properties. So there are places of learning. Also with the granite, they would show the energy properties of different materials through the piezoelectrical effect, transformation of one type of energy, electromagnetism, to another one, ultrasound. These places are places where they would improve your health or molecular structure of water, food, plants. The ancients were smart. They were not primitive Neolithic people, as they try to tell us, who were dragging those rocks or carrying them on their back. If one human can carry 50 kilos for 23 tons, you would need 450 people, which is impossible to place around one block. They had technology. Our history books are wrong.
Located near the borders of the provinces of Luxembourg and Liège, in the municipality of Durbuy, the small village of Weris is designated as one of the most beautiful villages in Wallonia. Situated on the limestone plateau which dominates the deep valleys of the Ourthe and Aisne rivers, its old buildings nestle in a mosaic of green landscapes, at the crossroads of several geographic zones. The nature of the subsoil plays a crucial role. In the south and the east, the hills of the Ardennes dominate the countryside. Harsh climate and scarcity of arable land led to the development of vast forests. Called pudding stone, derived from the English pudding, this rock was formed by the agglomeration of small rounded pebbles, a truly natural mass whose density and size attracted the builders of megaliths and, much later, the iron and steel industry. At the foot of the pudding stone ridge stretches the Calestian Plateau. Deriving its name from the limestone, it contains caves and chantoirs, where streams disappear to resurface in the open air after an underground journey, mostly uncharted. Its softer landform and richer soils have encouraged agriculture and the development of a particular kind of flora. Numerous villages have been built on the plateau over the centuries. To the east of the village of Weris lies the Megalithic area, a group of monuments consisting of 2 gallery graves, sorts of dolmens, and nearly 30 standing stones, the menhirs, aligned along a distance of 8 kilometers between Aupagne in the south and Auzot in the north, running through Weris, Morville, and Hay. Discovered at the end of the 19th century, these sites have been entirely emptied of their contents, leaving very little information for current archaeologists to find. The research carried out by archaeologists since the 80s has nonetheless shed some light on the techniques used in the construction of the gallery graves, which involved underlying riprap, trenches, paving, and small dry stone walls filling the space between the supports. The discovery of erection pits and wedging blocks also enabled the re-erection of some stones in their original setting. The presence of human bones confirms these monuments were burial sites. The 2 gallery graves sheltered the remains of adults, children, and adolescents. More unexpected was the discovery of a newborn baby's collarbone at the base of the menhir in Hay. Radiocarbon dating confirms that these individuals lived towards the end of the Neolithic era, between 3000 and 2500 BC, several centuries before the pyramids were built in Egypt. Even if some may disagree, the megaliths have nothing to do with the Gauls. However, they could be considered to be the first stone architecture of Belgium. Very few artifacts were uncovered on the excavation sites. Flint arrowheads, a few pottery shards, and the type of gallery graves reveal influences from the west, from the Paris Basin in France, but also from the east, from Hesse and Westphalia in Germany. This is not surprising, as the Calestienne and the Ourthe Valley have always constituted an important communication axis throughout these regions. The Neolithic people left, in a symbolic way, a strong and lasting impression on their land, just as the building of churches or chapels did later on. In parallel, natural cavities were used for mass burials, a practice which was widespread across the Moselle Basin. Moving these stones weighing several tons on rails of wooden logs using ropes and lever techniques. All this was done without using any metal tools. The distance these pudding stone blocks were moved could be as much as several hundred meters. A truly skillful technique. Nothing was left to chance in the building of the megaliths, the start point being the location of the megaliths. The main alignment, north-northeast, seems to have been influenced by the landform more than by anything astronomical. One factor which seems to have guided the Neolithic people of Wewis was the visibility between the different sites, only possible due to the Calistian Plateau, a moderate landform. In addition to this natural axis, remarkable pudding stone blocks found on the hillsides, such as the stone of Ena or the stone of St. Nicholas, may have played a part in defining some secondary axes, whose orientation suggests a link with the equinoxes and solstices. Today, these blocks are strongly linked to folklore and local legends.
What happened to megalithic dolmens and menhirs in southeastern Belgium, near the town of Veris? Yes, I'm in Belgium right now, near the province of Luxembourg. This place was the capital of dolmens and menhirs, megalithic structures built 5,000 years ago. And what happened? Great majority of them have been damaged, moved, destroyed, or materials were used either for residential structures or for the road buildings. Unfortunately, it shows how we treat the cultural heritage from civilizations millennia ago. Archaeologists claim that this was built by the Neolithic culture. However, Neolithic is the era of the stone man. I don't think so. The Stone Age did not have a social organization to design, shape, transport and erect, and then follow the movement of the sun during the summer and winter solstice and fall and spring equinox. They did not know where to find ley lines and some other energy properties. It seems that the knowledge has been brought. Of course, Neolithic man was probably there. What was his role? I'm not sure. Claims that there were graves. For me, it is hard to believe. Of course, with the passage of time, people were buried close to or even under those megalithic dolmens. But the first purpose, still the mystery.